Did you get home date?
Friday night, 4:30. Supposed to get Thursday night, 11.
All right, welcome everybody. I don't know who's meeting or facilitating this meeting at all, but I'm here. I'm going to listen well. This memo was prepared quite some time ago and then kind of edited by me, but this was prepared by Andrew, who did the RFQ, worked with the Energy Committee back when that was released, and kind of facilitated the responses coming in. So I hope everyone received all the link to all of those responses. One of the first steps in reviewing RFQs or RFPs is to determine how we want to score and, critique these coming in and how we want to set up the next steps moving forward. That's this 3-page memo in a soundbite.
Well, wasn't that already on the RFQ, the scoring process?
The scoring process is correct.
Okay.
I think, it's a check back in. This hasn't been a real robust discussion as of yet to really get a better understanding of what we're doing
Mhm.
and how we're doing it. So I guess the intent of this meeting really is to step through really the next steps. So hopefully it's not a lengthy discussion, sorry.
No, I can imagine so.
So we've reviewed each of these, obviously. I've talked to John Eldridge today just to get a little bit more insight. His town engineer left for another job, so he's not around to garner some information from him.
Yeah.
But you brought up some points to consider. So I think the idea here would be to let the Energy Committee talk to you and have a good discussion, maybe some concerns, whatever it may be. So I asked Dennis to be here because he obviously will have some thoughts as we gather more information depending on where we go. Since, him and his department will be somewhat integrated into this project somehow. Of course, myself. So I don't know if that you want to lead it off.
Well, I'll say something about what I thought the meeting was about, which was like to kind of go over how to rank them, who would be on the committee to rank them, and that we weren't going to actually go into the stuff tonight. And one comment we had, I think John is with us. So he mentioned, John, I don't know if you were able to come up with that example of scoring from some other thing you had done, but he mentioned that these really big categories of like 30 points could maybe be broken down a little bit more, so you have more metrics. Did you hear any of that?
No, I don't have those work products because those were owned by the company I was working for at the time, but I'd done quite a few computer selection studies, not lighting related, but generally, having more than about 20 points in one category other than price sort of muddies the water a lot of time when you have multiple people reviewing and rating.
I would think, my only word, I agree, if you're breaking out what is here. So, maybe make the 30-point category a little spread out. But I would say is we've put this out and we've told people this is what you'll be evaluated on. As long as we live within those categories, I think that works, breaking it out.
So,
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we have, I wasn't suggesting new evaluation criteria, but just making it clearer when somebody assigns points, what they're assigning them to.
So I've got a spreadsheet that I could forward along. John, do you or anybody want to take a shot at maybe distributing some of those points within that spreadsheet, because there are multiple bullets under each category, so we could do that as a rating.
Certainly.
Okay, I'll email everybody that.
One of the conversations out of this ranking system that I want to have, ultimately, I think it would be great. I'll be right up front of, those companies that we can take control of the system and we can create our own lighting plan. But if that doesn't become a reality and it becomes, we're just going to CMP because of the ease of it, we don't want to take on ownership. We don't want to bucket trucks and responsibility. They're not, CMP is not going to rank in this at all. It would have to be.
Well, I think one of the thoughts I had with this is, so the folks who submitted the RFP, you probably don't want to hear from every one of them. You want to rank them and hear from one, and then hear from CMP. So the presentations we're getting, hopefully you've winnowed it down to make the job a lot lighter in choosing which direction you want to be going. Is that kind of fair to?
I mean, yeah, I think we actually, not to disagree with Dave, but we probably can rank some of these CMP on some of these qualities. You're right, because there's some projects, some parts of this that don't apply, and they wouldn't get, a spare ranking.
Yeah, and I don't know, is CMP,
But it would help us direct questions as to what, their, the quality, I mean, one of the concerns I have is the quality of the products they're gonna be putting in. I mean, yeah, they're gonna take care of them, but if we end up with crappy lights for whatever reason, they don't give us a choice, really, so we're stuck with it.
well, and then, Victor, that could be a reality, but there's gonna have to be an understanding. CMP may be the choice out of this.
Oh, I know.
And I know some people,
Yeah.
they don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
but they might be. It's not what I like the system that we can overtake.
Yeah.
But if it becomes too cumbersome for a small town
Yeah,
to do the entire town, like I hope we can, CMP might be that option.
yeah,
And-
no, and that's a decision we probably can make before going out to these interviews. I mean, I guess we don't have the stomach for financing,
Right.
The whatever, the buy, basically investing and buying the system and taking ownership, then we definitely, I mean, there's only option to see them.
Right, right.
So,
And I don't know if we want to I would want to hear from people
Yeah.
before we would
I
say,
think there's too many questions to just end the conversation.
yeah.
okay.
I mean, I'm hoping at the end of the day, it's not CMP, but the reality is it could be.
Yeah,
And I just want to make sure we understand that from the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
I think it would just be a big pros and cons discussion after the two. I mean, I don't really think we can, we're gonna come up with, wow, we really thought, it's important that we have quality stuff, or we really think that pricing's important, but I don't know that we need to, make like a whole new ranking thing for them, but it is kind of interesting, what we do have to hear from CMP, because there's lots of polls and there's lots of questions and there's very little information. So if I was gonna be like, should they meet this? I'd be like, no.
Right.
I can't even interview them. They didn't meet it. But we didn't, it's not exactly how it was written out.
Right. And I heard, the one company, as I read all of them, there were two companies that seemed pretty equal in my opinion. Good luck to you who brings down the one without interviewing. I don't know. That would be an awful hard thing, I think.
We might want to review both too.
Yeah, they seem pretty comparable.
Yeah.
And
That's
they've worked in the
point.
area
Yeah.
that I thought they were pretty good companies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
makes
one of them was
makes
a
rent.
one of those gave us the sales, the other one gave us the sales pitch.
Right,
They didn't give us it.
right.
So I mean, they didn't do any work at all. So I don't know, that to me makes it feel like they just threw this out and hoped maybe we would, talk to them a little more, but yeah, it was just yeah.
The other two, from afar, they seem relatively equal. They both work in the area, they both have a lot of jobs locally.
And they clearly know something about small towns. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of them's far more small town than the other.
Well,
The Delcas, maybe?
Yeah, sorry, let me
They
pull
were,
that up.
they seemed far more small town.
Yeah.
When you have Monson on there, I think you're pretty small town. Yeah, I know. So I mean, I wouldn't want to limit it. I mean, whoever makes the decision, one or two, and I don't want to people to drag their time out interviewing if everyone else feels it's a waste, but they seemed pretty close that you'd want to look at both.
Say, we take the time to go back through this and make a couple of edits to the, how we're gonna weight that, and then review everything, and then we'll have those scores. If they, if they're pretty close and we just decide, hey, these two are
These two.
coming to talk to us, like, it is a lot of work to look through all this stuff, schedule all of these calls, but we should interview.
A lot of the 30 pages, there was about 4 that meant anything, so. It was, yeah, well, I mean, and they have to do all that, I get it, but it was 4 pages of this is the service we offer. I mean, those are my initial thoughts after looking at that stuff. I want to make sure everyone knows CMP could be on the table.
The other thing we should realize too is that even though they gave us sort of ballpark estimates, those are really ballpark estimates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not gonna know what it's really gonna save us or what it's really gonna cost until they do their initial, what they call it, not evaluation, but
Their assessment.
or their assessment, yeah. I forgot exactly what it's called anyway. And that, one of the questions I have, and not answered in any of those is like, what's that gonna cost us? Or, what's the commitment? If they do that, how do we get there, basically?
It felt like it was part of the package, honestly.
Yeah, so-
That assessment was, once you determine we are your choice.
Yeah, but then
We'll
what
assess.
happens if they do the assessment and we say, ooh, that doesn't anything like what we were thinking.
Right.
What do we do then? So I think we need to figure out what that process is.
And they have enough experience, they should be able to get close anyway before they start the real.
Yes, yeah, no, I think their estimates are, probably within the ballpark. I don't think they're way off, but I just wanted to point out that that's one of the things that we should think about in the process is that, when we're interviewing, and particularly what's gonna, how do we, if your evaluation comes out and it's just like, this is way different than what we were expecting, then how we back down? Kind of thing. So, right.
Escape clause.
Escape clause, yeah.
Because was it Delcas? They actually had it laid out pretty unit by unit. I thought they had a pretty solid, one of them had a
Kind of
pretty
process,
solid.
yeah, I don't know which one. it was, but you're right.
Do we want to look at their products too? Do we want to look at the products and have presentations before we decide on the RFQ too? I mean, real term, I guess they have 3 different companies that they look at.
Yeah.
Creative Cooper and Acuity Fixtures.
Infinity has their own.
Infinity has their own.
Yeah,
What's the difference in quality of each of those fixtures?
yeah.
The other part that, this is just from my understanding, I'll just get it all out. is Evaluating our current fixtures that CMP owns and the ones that we have, particularly the ones that CMP owns. What's the value of those that they're gonna charge us to buy it? Did they just replace them? How long ago was it? What's the value? I know in Brunswick, for instance, what the town manager was telling me, it was kind of a no-brainer for them because all of their fixtures were old.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of value. It was easy to buy it. However, they wouldn't have probably made the decision if they were much newer.
I don't, generally, I suspect they're all fairly old. I don't know when we converted to microcustodian, but they would have had to put in new fixtures then, and they last about 40 years. So if it, they wouldn't replace the fixture. They have to relamp every 6 months, every 6 years roughly. So they may have just installed new lamps. The lamps are $10. The fixtures are $150, $300 or something like that. Or more, I don't know what they charge these days.
Are the warranties different? Are they 10-year warranties, 20-year warranties?
Yeah.
What's been, I know Real Term's got quite a few towns that they've done here in Maine, right? So
Yeah.
we should be able to gather some data on how long your fixture's lasting versus say, Affinity, who's primarily in Augusta, York County and New Hampshire.
yeah, actually, they should be able to give us a curve that says, here's your failure rate over time. And that's useful. I mean, that's a standard graph that most lighting providers provide to utilities. They say, here's what the failure, and for high pressure sodium, that sort of is like this. At the end of life, it's start dropping out really quickly. And for electronics, I don't know what it's like for LEDs, particularly for long term, but for electronics, you got a little bit of failure at the very beginning, in the first few months, and then it's pretty much flat from then on out. It's a straight line curve.
Yeah, I'm sorry, jumping a little bit, but the affinity, and these are questions I would think I would want to know. Their fixtures as well as the types of bulbs that they use, are they similar to Real Term or the other company? Are they one big LED, or are they like kind of the, I don't know much about lighting, but about the array, and then get to the lumens?
Well, they're all. I mean, a single LED is one light emitting diode. There are thousands of light emitting diodes in one of these things. So
Are they all the same between the companies?
pretty much. I mean, they may buy and actually buy the LED arrays from the same manufacturer, you know, but they make the fixtures is probably more important than the actual quote unquote bulbs. Usually the bulbs are not separable from the rest of the fixture, as far as I know. And then maybe they've changed that, but the electronics behind it is what really makes the thing work. And so it's the quality of electronics. You can buy at Home Depot, you can buy, you know, LED bulbs from 2 or 3 different manufacturers, and some of them will fail pretty quickly because the electronics are crap. And others, you know, will last forever because, you know, they.
Do you have any name brands you can share? with
No,
us?
no. Actually, I don't know so much about the LEDs, but the fluorescents. There was definitely Lowe's was the place to avoid for buying compact fluorescents. I bought, I forget what they were called, the store brand, and I swear half of them died within like 2 years.
Why are you spending your money in Brunswick and not in Topsham?
Well,
I was gonna say, don't get him.
Yeah, what are you
I
doing?
did both. Eventually I went to Home Depot.
Revenue sharing is only based on Topsham.
Yes. I know. Anyway,
But it's mostly the electronics. The initial part of the curve is a certain amount of the electronics just go right away.
yeah, this happens with anything, computer, you know, cell phone, whatever. If it's gonna fail, you know, if there's something wrong with the manufacturing or whatever, it'll fail within the first year, so, you know, like even usually less. And then if it makes it through that, there's really nothing that's there to help. Except the batteries, but these are not batteries. So, you know, they basically just kind of, you know, randomly drop out every once, you know, once in a while, one will die, but, anyway, but I would love to know what that curve, I would like to know from these manufacturers, what do they have? Because they would have had to test these things for like, especially if they got a warranty on them. They would have had to do serious testing on this, and so we should be able to see that. Anyway, so that's one thing about it. Hopefully that'll give us some confidence to say, we're buying, you know, 450 of these, what are we expecting for replacements? You know, how often are we gonna have to replace them? And so I think we want to know that for sure. Anyway.
One question I had. I think they're assuming we have the GIS data. And if they need to do an inventory, that may be a cost.
I thought they had mentioned that they would be GIS and
Well, the language they're using, I can't really figure out, like,
Yeah, that was a question of mine too.
let's see. With real term GIS inventory, coordinate and manage the overall survey. So, well, if they're saying survey, that means they're getting out there, hopefully.
yeah.
We have point data on our street lights, kind of, sort of. But again, that data doesn't have any real metadata behind it. It doesn't have who owns it, what it is, and all that. It's just a point saying there's a street light here. So what that means is that they'll come in and provide data and hopefully this is something I'd want from CMP too, actually. If we get something out of CMP, that would be a big win to get that inventory and data update.
They have nothing behind, right? They should share it.
Well, apparently they do, because they charge you on the fixtures, and if they're charging you on more fixtures than you actually have.
Right.
We've heard that many
This is not ours, good, what's going on here?
One of the things in whose ever memo, Andrew's or yours, the EPA and the credits.
Yeah,
Making sure, because this is a substantial amount of our electricity is streetlights.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know where that went.
Yeah, I think we really need an answer on that. I can't imagine that, I just can't imagine we get stuck in any manner, but
I think you gotta use them. You gotta get an EV, you gotta get a heat pump.
I got a heat pump.
Well, this place needs one.
I got two.
No, they don't. Believe me, they don't.
We can see
See 'em.
some plug-in heaters here.
Yeah. We're not
Or
gonna,
baseboard, whatever.
I mean, I will say, we're not looking to spend more to do this stuff. That will certainly be something that I will have zero interest in, and whether it's internet throughout the town or whatever, some of the little ideas. I'm not looking to make this more expensive for the sake of. That's my opinion. It's about conversion of LED lights. And we need that answer on the solar, and it's gonna be, I would think they should be able to give a definitive answer, right? Solar company, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, Naples, we've got 2 invoices from them yet. Second invoice, we don't have the credits.
Yeah.
We just got the invoice, but
So the question is, you wanna reduce the PPA amount?
No, I want to make sure we can use everything that we're entitled to use. I just want to make sure we're not stuck with anything, that we don't take advantage fully, I guess, is my concern. You know, if we're expecting 40,000 a year credits, I want to make sure we have that amount to
Right.
use.
Sure.
Without adding other electrical toys around town
That could long-term save you money.
or could not.
Well, we haven't done the analysis yet.
Well, nobody's buying my gas for my truck, so putting an electrical outlet outside for somebody's car isn't something I'm supporting.
I'm not saying it's for the public.
So that's one of the things we gotta know. Are we gonna get our full amount, and how do we use them if not?
I think it
Can we
would be
sign
a good time to reevaluate as well, because the, the power prices have gone up so much, since the last, which I think we ought to look at what the current situation is.
Oh, actually, these guys are great, because you're paying, X number of dollars per kilowatt hour, and it's not based on the current price of the standard offer.
Right.
Whereas,
So the spread between the current price of power, that's widening.
yeah, it's
So
double.
so the space in between, I believe that the space in between what we're paying for power, and what we would have had to pay for power, assuming the next contract that we, would have had to write, is growing. So I wonder if even if we did lose some credits, that we would still be ahead on a dollar basis. I know I've just gone through the whole thing, with the community solar. We buy some, solar from my mom's house. And, I looked at the bill and I was like, oh my God, there's a much wider spread than I was expecting, because the delivery and the standard offer. So it is actually possible. I figured out that it was possible for her to lose some of the credits that she had paid for, because she was paying 10 cents a quick kilowatt hour, whereas the total cost of delivery plus standard offer was 21 cents a kilowatt hour. So there's a little bit of a spread in there that gives us a little bit more confidence, I would presume.
Yeah.
So we might want to look at what those numbers actually are. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's our percentage of our total that we're getting right now?
You know, just with the,
It's hard to say too, without getting a whole year's worth of usage, because it changes. That's a tough, you'd have to. pile up.
it's gonna take us a couple of years to really
Yeah,
get it down.
Yeah.
But we're saving.
Hmm.
However, it just doesn't look like we're saving on paper.
Right.
You know, when you look at your bills, it continues to go up.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Everything's gone up.
well, it's also pretty terrible with solar because it's producing like crazy in the summertime. You might be using a little bit less, so the differences, in those curves, what we're actually using and what's being produced at the.
Yeah, I know, last December, just before the Naples project came in, we've had about 11 months of the first project, Scout Eagle project.
Mhm.
We saved about, I don't know if save is the right word, but $27,000 as it came our way. So it's pretty much in line with what the original estimates were.
Okay, that's good.
But we're waiting to see how the Naples thing works out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good thing to do.
And I think the original pursuit was for 85% of the total power, so the 15%.
The original was 90.
90.
Yeah, that's kind of the source of the thing. Only because what turned out to be one project at 95, went to 90, and now it's two projects barely getting to 85.
That's probably
Not
good.
bad, but
That's probably good, because we're gonna.
right. That's why I said it's not bad, but initially I was just like, geez, no. But yeah, I think it was a good thing to do.
But definitely have to get all of those numbers on the, because I mean, obviously you don't want to spend more money, but get all those numbers on. the table.
They don't want surprises a couple years down the road thinking we were going the right way on one thing.
What we're attempting to do is consolidate our CMP bills, our lights. There's quite a few accounts, and I think it happens incrementally as you grow.
Yeah.
They never get it. So we're trying to work with CMP right now to see if we can, at least not have so many.
I think they want to do that anyway. Save them money.
I mean, this is only a bit new 2 weeks ago. I talked to Kathy before on vacation. She was looking into it.
I know.
So if I heard correctly here, or let me kind of summarize what I think I'm hearing here.
You paraphrasing, are you?
I'll put it in quotes.
Okay.
We'll kind of conduct a scoring of the RFQs that were sent.
You
It's
want to
sounding
take
like,
a lead on that, just to clarify? Sound like Victor and John are interested. in-
yeah, I'll send out a spreadsheet. I think everybody can put their rankings in that spreadsheet. But it's seeming like we want to hear from more respondents than just narrowing it down to one.
I mean, to me, just looking
We
at
only have
those that
3.
came in, it seemed like 2 of them were pretty good, just on a,
But the thing
Quick
I'm sensitive to is your time, because if you're coming in with presentations,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna have to set up either a block of time or multiple blocks of time to hear those presentations, one from CMP, they're already at the table. And then however many we choose to.
but maybe like Yvette said, once the categories are broken, maybe once you do evaluate, they're not as close as it looked like in the presentation.
Right.
Okay,
So
So
if-
that's my immediate thing, to get the spreadsheet and set a deadline to have that.
Yeah.
I think CMP ought to go last as well.
What's that?
I hope CMP goes last because
Yeah.
I would like to learn something from the company so we can
Yeah, ask questions.
provide some
Oh, yeah,
questions.
good point.
That's a very good point, Walter.
I was
I
shocked.
want to see
They're, the
CMP
products
better.
they're giving us now, those fixtures are really bad. They waste like 25 to 30% of the power in the ballast. That's outrageous. I just like, whoa.
Who benefits?
CMP. It costs them as much to install and they charge us more for the power. It's just like, whoa.
Just don't get bigger.
Anyway, maybe all utilities do that. I don't know.
Could go.
That was the
So
standard.
we're doing the spreadsheet first, or the
Yeah.
grading criteria, then set, once we're good with that, then set dates for presentations.
Which we, if you wanna, we can set that calendar now if you want. Or, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think you gotta talk with these individuals too, right?
Well, they'll jump at the chance to present the times you set.
All right.
I mean, it's interviewing for a job, basically. I mean, I'm thinking if everybody has 2 weeks to do the rankings at the same time, to read through everything, rank, and then a week or two after that. So, looking at late March perhaps for presentations. The other piece is, this hasn't really been budgeted for this coming year.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that up. But
I mean, but we don't want to lose any time. We gotta figure something out to get it in.
so
For
does
for
that,
budgeting reasons, so I think we have some, but it depends how much that is. We don't know how much that is.
Right.
That would be in the capital.
Well, I'm not hesitant to,
get a number from that, but it's gonna, I mean, it's gonna be dependent on,
right,
I mean, Thompson really doesn't have comparatively to across the river, the number of flights and costs.
That's why I think it's gonna be different because of the value of the current lights and what we get paid for. them.
It's a different apple.
So until we get that assessment, we don't.
I mean, I know we want to do this as soon as possible, but it may end up being either a special town meeting or waiting a whole year before we actually commit to a contract with one of these people. I mean, well, I guess that's not quite, if they can start it with an assessment for a reasonable amount of money, with us putting down a reasonable amount of money, and then coming back with a final, here's the total cost it's gonna cost. We put that on next year's town meeting. I don't know if that works out.
We just have to know the cost.
Yeah, well, I meant, if we knew the cost to get the initial evaluation and final cost, then
you know,
we could, you could put that on
we have until, we'll have our public hearing in April.
the,
And it's, this project, I don't have the hesitation myself standing up at town meeting, because this project has a potential to save an incredible amount of money over 20 years to the people. I don't personally have a heartburn of standing at May town meeting saying, we've gone through this process. No, it did not go through the original portions, but add it to a budget line or whatever it may be.
Oh, I see.
Because, so not to lose that opportunity over
Right,
another year.
right, okay.
Yeah,
That's enough, okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what we have to do is, I mean, I guess I felt those that went through and put in some numbers, they were based on something, looking at it. They had a layout of
Number of lights.
lights and stuff, and they've done so many of these. I don't believe we're gonna find much wiggle. Maybe we can start having that in our head that we need 140,000, whatever the number turns. I think that was kind of the area of something.
What was the number?
Was it like 140?
No, it was 140 to 200, depending on what kind of fixtures and what
140.
options we want, something like that. So, yeah, that's, yeah.
What's the cost of
But I don't think we should rush
That,
anything
that,
either.
that.
No,
that
no.
Want
was-
it detailed.
I think
Yeah.
only one, I think
We
the
can
alternate
have it
gave us
ready.
a rough
And if we
estimate
have
for
to
this,
insert,
Yeah.
because we're not gonna be able to.
$11,000.
With the
The
county's
thing, if it
budget.
isn't in the paper we
Oh, really?
send out.
I didn't see how
Oh,
much that
wow,
was.
okay, I didn't
18%.
remember the number, but I also. Hard to estimate what the charges.
Go my,
There's a bunch of different fixtures out there too.
Yeah.
I heard they want
Pricing.
people inside.
A lot of,
Right.
you don't realize it until you really start to, in my shoes, calling around the right companies to replace them.
Oh,
Union Park's different lights than on Main Street, there are different lights that are up on Oak Hill, there are different lights that are over in Topsham Crossing. I'm just sharing you, it's not to get money up the water here, but it's not
So you
Two
know,
hundred fixtures of one.
This,
No,
this cleans that up perhaps, though.
right.
yeah,
Yes.
You know, and this is something that I threw in the memo of having a specification of what the preferred town light is.
Yep.
When
I
new
like that.
development comes in or what have you. We don't go, oh, here's what you need to do, which is
And I
much
thought
easier.
one of them had it kind of broken out like that, Dennis, so, 15 of this kind or something, maybe not.
For instance, Village Drive going into the Highlands is 45 fixtures that are unique to the rest of town. They're ours.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah, of course.
Well, Dan Catlin's project's different than somebody else's project.
I know.
I do like, but moving forward, we need to standardize things, for sure. This is that opportunity.
Because some of them clearly look a lot brighter than others do, so. At the end of the day, it's like, which one is the public going to actually recognize, say, you know what, this looks like inviting.
Does anyone believe that we're overlighted by chance?
I think there are places that are overlighted.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there are residential streets that have lights on them that, we walk down at night fairly frequently, you never see a car. And yet they're blaring right in, somebody's bedroom window. I mean, it's just, the nice thing about these LEDs is you can have them so they're motion sensitive. They're at a
Oh,
dim
yeah,
level.
that's a good.
They're at a dim
Yeah.
level, so they have a little bit of light, but then when somebody comes by, somebody walks by or a car comes through, it pops up. And you can see the road and then it goes away again. Anyway, so, and that's gonna save us even more.
No, and because I'm thinking, we were just away last week and we were in Lakehavasu in Arizona. The entire town was designed and there still are no streetlights.
Yeah.
And everybody's life is just fine.
Cars do have headlights, so that's.
You're correct. No sidewalks either, Dennis.
I think Jen might want to say something.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they don't have any lights, yeah.
Their hands up.
Jen's- Go ahead, Jen. You're on mute.
Hey, yeah, hey y'all. No, I was just thinking it might be good to settle whether or not we plan to or check testimonials and references before or after the interviews. Especially in the case of actually in both Affinity and Real Term, they both had some good reference set examples of communities that would be good to just call and verify, and it might give us a good heads up about some things to talk about during interviews or whether or not we even want to.
But again, give us your customer list, we'll pick who we call. So we'll have to show you.
Well, they do, that's part of the matrix. 3 project references. Yeah, but I think you're right. Let the group choose who they want to talk to, not who's been handed.
I like the emotional center. I like that idea a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have a lot of deer running around, then it's not a problem.
They give you streetlights out there? Do they give you streetlights out there?
Not in the right place to keep them from using the crowd.
So, they gave references in the document, but do we want to call some of these after we've had the interview that aren't?
I mean,
Because I'm looking, okay, well, it's 500 lights. Why don't we call them? They're the ones that are closer to our size. There's a whole bunch that are around our size, not Brunswick, but there's plenty. And frankly, Brunswick's not really up and going right now, so kind of
Nothing to
talking to
talk
him
about.
wasn't all,
Yeah.
super oh, this is how it happened and this is what happened. Some of these other folks might be, that was my question though, would we consider those references in the scoring document? Who helps us choose who we're gonna pick, but then we do a deeper dive when we're actually, if we're gonna be looking at them.
I think if you have like a job interview and, talk to the references after we do the
Yeah.
presentations or go through it. So we don't have any bias going into it.
I was just clarifying.
The other thing too is that we may, in the interviews with the company, we may eliminate a company. Just, and then we don't have to worry about the references.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little less work on that. So, but yeah, we definitely should, I have the same idea that Jen has, we should definitely talk to the company, you know, to some of the comparable. And we can always go back to the, you know, to the company we're talking to and say, here's some concerns that come up, can you address these? And so, you know, even though we didn't get it at the first interview, we can certainly.
Ideally, you want to talk to one of the oldest customers and one of the private ones.
Yeah.
See what the difference.
Yeah.
So that line, we won't be ranking that as part of our initial step two, albeit after an interview ranking and determination.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I read it, it looks like we will be, you know, reaching out for references. But again, we don't, it's not like we're just, you know, picking through 10 applications right now. So pretty simple.
Well, let's get it done.
I guess I have
But what are
another,
we sitting around for?
who is on the, like, who, I mean, are all the members of the energy committee reviewing one? Are we just submitting one ranking for the group?
I don't have any intention of doing any of the rating and such. I think we were just talking tonight about
No,
what
I
the
mean, moving
expectations.
forward.
Right, I think I take it as you guys and staff work with that, is my opinion.
Do whatever you guys want.
As far as, I wouldn't mind sitting in and listening to the presentations, it's certainly an interest from there, but
I would like.
I
to
think
see
the
presentation.
rating is, you know, something you guys have a greater grasp and have, you know, I think he was gonna break it out and such.
So if it's,
Does that work?
then you guys could get that done in like a week. even. Going through the ranking.
Okay, so we get to, we'll fix up the ranking, we'll do the ranking, and then we just present.
And then we'll.
Yeah, I think the staff needs to be involved in the ranking, so. But I mean, Dennis has got some expertise in streetlights and planning, maybe somebody from admin, just kind of sit in and watch it. Or see the results and go over the results.
Yeah, basically,
Let us QA before we bring it.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, for sure. I guess Dennis had experience, it sounds like you have some experience with existing lighting and replacements and stuff like that, so that might be very useful.
Something I'm responsible for, yeah.
Yeah, I think it.
Not in just, CMP, you don't just call them up and say, hey, you know, there's a light out, no. That's what the town manager Elizabeth had me thinking, that's pretty much how they deal with it, is they just call CMP.
Dennis, want to share how it works?
First, we have to identify whose light it is.
Oh,
Okay, I already mentioned that there's several private developments in town, so if they're private, they may be responsible for their own lighting, that we get a complaint on.
oh,
We very rarely get a complaint on a light that's on too much. I
okay,
mentioned that there's a lot of too many lights in this town, field and things like that, it's too bright, we get very few calls on that.
okay.
Once we do identify whose they are, then we either email CMP, and it may take up to a month to get a response and get a fixture or get a light bulb changed out there. That's all dependent upon the weather and what's been going on in their lifestyle, things like that. If it's private, it's really an Enterprise Electric or Federal Electric runs with one of the other, kind of what we've got to work with. And they can change those. And it's a timely thing when it comes to work schedules. We waited a month or two. It's not uncommon. 60 to 90 days to get a light change.
Wow.
So Dennis, this moves forward, we take ownership of everything. The decisions need to be made, you know, that ongoing responsibility, equipment needed, would it be? Like, so somewhere along this evaluation, we have to know the value of that, the value of, is it better to have Enterprise? Is it better to have you guys with a small bucket truck? And I don't have a clue what the answer is, but we've got to figure, that's got to be a known. Because that's the one thing that keeps CMP in the game, right? It's that, it's the emergent situation, the storm damage, the whatever it may be, in our ongoing costs.
Yeah, they're still gonna be responsible for the poles, I mean, they're poles.
Right, but that pole comes down, there's a fair chance that's gonna fall forward on the
The
light.
light, yeah, exactly. The light might be down.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a separate case of getting the light.
Yeah, so I think that's There's a lot to know there of us holding responsibility.
But the person who fixes, who changes the fixture has to be certified by CMP, I think, or is that not true?
A licensed electrician.
It just has to be a licensed electrician, it doesn't have to be anybody at CMP has signed off on it. Does it?
It doesn't have to be, but 99% of the time, the contractors today in the area have worked for CMP.
Oh, I see. So,
Because of the call time, when it comes to some storm damage and things like that.
yeah, I see. So they,
David right on talks about, specialty needs, personnel and equipment.
Yeah.
And then maintain that, but licenses for individuals, equipment, if you get a boom truck, then you've got to be an annual inspections on boom trucks, and it just starts that budgeting figure to
Yep.
really.
and if you don't use it that often, it's a lot of expense for equipment.
And
Was I wrong in thinking that these companies also manage a system, a lighting system, like?
Yeah, actually, it looks like one of the real terms or somebody said that they would, I mean, it sounded like they provided the maintenance.
They had a maintenance.
Yeah, they
cost.
had a maintenance cost built into the contract, so, I mean, to the price, so we just basically do the same thing. We don't have to figure out who's like it.
Send an email and wait a month.
Yeah, and say, hey, get this done, and, it might still take a month, but.
And again, just the differences that are out there. We've got lighting systems that are in place now that are underground.
Yeah, oh,
And we have lighting systems in place today that are above ground. So we've got that happy marriage to try to create and keep, or divorce from, whatever it is, but I'm just sharing with you. Downtown and Main Street are underground.
yes, yeah.
We've got tall poles on the side of 196.
Yep.
On the side of the local connector that are ours. We've got-
Oh, they
Look
are.
at look at truck for those.
And then you've got lights over the Topsham crossing that are maybe 10, 12 feet off the ground.
Don't need a boom.
It's quite a wide variety.
Yeah.
You don't realize it till you get out there and then you start trying to replace components.
Well, on that responsiveness question, I mean, there is no SLA with them today, with CMP, that they have to live to.
As far as response,
Yeah, they don't have.
they try to work within 30 days.
Okay, so it's a try, not we promise to.
I've never seen that promise.
Good question.
And I'm not trying to be negative.
No, I'm just
I've
saying,
never
I
seen
think that
that
sounds like
in
an opportunity,
place.
so we develop a new contract and we say, this is our SLA for this response. You don't meet it, then there's a
Keep
price.
together, 'cause I mean, that have to work us.
Well, it's gonna have, you want to know the response time of these others if they're the maintenance.
Right.
We
Yeah,
wanna
so
know
if they're
that.
willing to provide a service level agreement that basically says, here's our, here's where we are, or else it's gonna be triggered, or whatever,
And we have a disaster that goes through Brunswick, Topsham,
Yes, yeah,
Bath,
yeah,
and we're all without lights,
Yeah.
fixtures.
yeah.
Then we better take the company that didn't do those two.
Well, see,
It's the reality of what we expected.
Yeah,
That's a
right.
good question. I mean, because, when you look at who has real term, it's all in this area.
Yeah.
Brunswick,
Yeah.
Auburn.
They better have a lot of bucket trucks. Anyways.
It's something to
That's a
consider.
fair question,
It is.
because, if they bring on another community, what's it cost them on the capital side in terms of, are they gonna use their existing equipment, or are they gonna actually beat it up?
Where do our 400 lights rank versus 2,200 lights somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting, I think, talking to some of the other towns, that they've had problems with major storms, as to how many lights they have to, fix, and what's their experience, so, we've all gone through major power outages, so, trees coming down and stuff, so hopefully they have some knowledge of that too.
And you have- just saying, you go with a different company than the person that owns the poles. Got to keep that marriage happy,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
and the service time.
Yeah.
Well,
She's got her-
Point,
you
yeah.
can't guarantee to put the light fixture up in 2 weeks. Pole takes 60 to 90 days by on target, who's a contractor for CMP or for Consolidated, who owns the pole. It's
Yeah.
really tough. It's not.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also getting, not only do you have the power lines, but you've got the communications cable, the cable and the telephone
what we're gonna do. 5 years from now, the landscape is gonna be different anyway. So, you know, there's nothing that we can decide on that's gonna absolutely ironclad carry us through a 20-year period. Not saying we shouldn't try, but
Well, they're all gonna have like active on like with their contract anyway, so we can blame the weather.
right,
So,
All three will be sold to one person. It won't-
We all set?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is have some rankings and then we'll have an energy committee staff meeting to go through the RFQs responses and then come back and set up probably, I don't know how we want to do presentations, if it's a work, it's probably not during the regular board meeting. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, it's workshop sort
Yeah.
of,
that's what I figured.
start at 10 AM, whatever, how, I mean, obviously not everyone can do, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever it
We'll
is.
figure that out.
I'd like to hear the presentation.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good.
If it's on Zoom, I think, you know,
Yeah,
people
that's-
can still
that's
do this during the day.
Yeah, more participation. Okay. All right, I'll follow up with an email.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you, folks.